big a role did Fox Sports play in the destruction of the Pac-12? And yes, Arizona turned out to be the ultimate tipping point. Welcome to episode 296 of College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. John Wilner, the Mercury News, puts out an article this afternoon. If you've been part of the PATC community for the last year, you knew how the story went. But for others, John Wilner's article is going to be very important for you to read. We put a link in the description. You can read the whole thing. Please put down your comments in the comments section below the video. The Pac-12's collapse. Washington State's President Schultz suggests Fox strategy to block Apple fueled the Big Ten's raid of Washington in Oregon. Did Arizona's application to the Big 12 play a role in the Pac-12's demise? Are you telling me that Arizona actually applied to the Big 12 before the morning of Friday, August 4th? We shall see. We shall see. One of the Pac-12's longtime media partners had strategic reasons for taking the step that decimated the conference, according to a university president with knowledge of the media rights negotiations. Washington State's Kirk Schultz, chair of the Pac-12 Board of Directors, suggested late last week that Fox might have lured Washington and Oregon into the Big Ten in order to prevent the Pac-12 from signing an agreement with Apple. We've got just a couple of networks that are making the real decisions about who goes where based on the dollars they want to put into it, Schultz said during the conversation published on the university's YouTube channel. I do think if I was Fox and ESPN, I'm not sure I would want Apple in the marketplace, frankly. I don't want somebody with pockets that are that deep as a rival if I can afford it. Pac-12 presidents were expected to sign a grant of rights contract with Apple that would have kept the conference together. But a few minutes before the crucial meeting on August 4th, Washington and Oregon announced they were joining the Big Ten. The tectonic development prompted Utah, Arizona State to seek shelter in the Big 12, leading to the collapse of the conference. Fox owns the Big Ten media rights and was responsible for the $375 million, approximately, that Washington and Oregon will receive over 6 years of the conference media contract. Fox has not made a deep push into the streaming market, preferring to focus on delivering sports content over its linear networks. Meanwhile, Apple has distribution deals with Major League Baseball and Major League Soccer and was attempting to break into the college football space through an agreement with the Pac-12. Was it a strategic move on their part to say, if we kill the Apple deal, that gives us 5 or 6 years without them in the college football? Schultz said. People can say, Kirk, put a tinfoil hat. That's kind of a conspiracy theory. But on the other hand, I can see making a business decision. I'm not talking about the value of the schools or any of that. That might be seen as a more strategic to have a corner on the marketplace. The theory that Fox wanted to block Apple has traction across the Pac-12 footprint and support in the broader sports media space. But Schultz is the first Pac-12 executive to address it publicly. During a wide-ranging discussion with former journalist Enrique Cerna, a member of the Washington State's Board of Regents, Schultz acknowledged that the Cougars were standing in line like everybody else to collect the check from the media companies. But he expressed concern over the role Fox and ESPN play in conference realignment. The more you pull competition out of the marketplace, the easier it becomes for some of those funders to really call the shots, he said. We're sort of down to really two dominant players that are really determining what happens with expansion. I don't mean necessarily that any one of them is calling a commissioner and saying, go get these two schools. Maybe that's happening. I don't know that. But what is happening is the commissioner calls them and says, we would like to add X and Y, and the networks get to make the decision. Do I give a pro rata amount for that, or do I say, sorry, we're not going to give you any money? I would argue that's the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules, and that's where we are right now. Washington and Oregon needing more than cash to make the jump into the Big Ten. However, they also needed approval from the conference's Council of Presidents and Chancellors. And boy, have we been saying that at Peek Around the Corner for months and months and months and months. We said 5 months from now or 5 years from now, Oregon and Washington would get into the Big Ten, but they needed clearance. They needed the legal clearance out of the Council of Presidents. We've been talking about that at Peek Around the Corner, and they weren't going to be able to do that unless the Big 12 was going to be able to crack into the Pac-12, and not just Colorado. They needed to crack in more than Colorado. This is what we reported to you all for a year. Get back to the article. That same group, that same Council of Presidents and Chancellors, that same group approved invitations for USC and UCLA in June of 2022, thereby creating an existential crisis for the Pac-12. For most of the intervening 13 months, the Big Ten presidents seemed unwilling to take the final step. Membership offers for the Pacific Northwest powerhouses that would lead to the Pac-12's destruction. What changed in early August? Other than Fox's willingness to fund the expansion? Here is the PATC money shot of John Wilner's article in the Mercury News this afternoon. Arizona's application for membership in the Big 12 played a key role in the process, according to a source. The Wildcats weren't the only school to seek a lifeboat. Utah and Arizona State would follow them into the arms of the Big 12, and Colorado, of course, had already jumped. But in an attempt to secure a home in case the Pac-12 collapsed, Arizona formally applied for membership in the Big 12 in the middle of the week, before Oregon and Washington rejected the Pac-12 grant rights agreement on that fateful Friday morning. The Big Ten became aware of Arizona's application to the Big 12, according to the source. So, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti tells his presidents, "We aren't the ones," the source said. They felt like they weren't the ones to fire the kill shot. That triggered the Big Ten presidents to approve membership for Washington and Oregon without guilt and with Fox cash as the carrot, the source said. Arizona's application was approved by the Big 12 on Thursday evening, the night before, August 3rd. According to a Yahoo report, even though Presidents Robert Robbins awoke Friday morning prepared to join Arizona State and Utah in signing the Pac-12 grant rights deal, by then the Big Ten hammer had fallen. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. As we reported here at Peek Around the Corner, as finally John Wilner and others are reporting, the Big Ten was not going to act until the Big 12 was able to crack into the Pac-12. Not just Colorado, as we reported, it would take Arizona. And once Big Ten found out that Arizona actually applied to the Big 12, the green lights came on, the cash came in, the Big Ten presidents quickly approved, and Oregon and Washington knew at Friday morning, August 4th, that they were Big Ten bound. Everything else was just noise. Everything else was just a play on a stage to try to convince your constituents, wherever you sat, wherever you stand, that you weren't the one that put down the axe on the Pac-12. But Arizona was the tipping point. And who can blame them? They weren't going to get a deal that they could sign. They were not going to get a media deal presented to them that would enhance the front porch of their university. They made a decision. They applied Thursday in the middle of the week. And when the Big Ten found out about it, they acted. They quickly approved in Oregon and Washington. Before they went to bed on Thursday, August 3rd, Oregon and Washington knew they had the invitation and they were going to the Big Ten. Now, was Fox playing a game here? Of course they were. We reported to you all that it was Fox that wanted Oregon and Washington. There's been a lot of conversation lately here in the college football. Who controls these conferences? Is it the president? Is it the network? Some people say it's all the networks. Some people say it's all the presidents. It's neither. It's a mixture. It is complicated. It isn't that simple to say only the networks call the shots, because you know what? They do not. And it's not just the presidents. If it was the presidents calling the shots, if it had nothing to do with the network, Stanford would be a member of the Big Ten today, but they are not. And it's not just the networks. They're not just the ones that are calling the shots. The Big Ten presidents eventually have to vote on it. It is true. And any president of any conference has to vote on it. It is true what Washington State's President Schultz says. A commissioner calls his media partners and says, can I get evaluation for program, for team, for school, Y, and Z? And then they get the evaluation back, give it to the presidents, and then they make a decision along eventually with their media partners. So Schultz said a lot of truth here. John Wilner made it perfectly clear how things went down. Arizona was the tipping point. When they applied, it was over. Washington and Oregon were told that they were going to get approved into the Big Ten. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's how the story went down. Stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We are days away from Notre Dame Navy in Dublin, Ireland, college football, ready to rock and roll. We're going to be talking about the games. We are all fired up. So until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.